Welcome back to the Glow Up Girl podcast. I'm Kyra. All right, let's welcome Betsy to the show. Welcome.
Oh, glad to be here. Thank you, Kyra.
Awesome. Well, why don't we get started by having you tell the audience listening or watching who you are and what you do?
Sure. I'm Betsy Pepine. I am a serial entrepreneur in all things real estate. So I have a brokerage in Florida, as well as a title company and a property management brokerage and a real estate school and nonprofit. And I just truly love anything to do with real estate. And I'm a mom of two daughters and a passionate pet rescue volunteer.
Yes, I love it. A woman with lots of interests and a master of a lot of things. So we love that. So you are going to help us today. We're going to be talking about how do you break free from the boxes that hold us back.
Mhm.
And you are an author and you wrote a book about breaking boxes. So let's talk about why did you write this book?
So I wrote the book because I got to a point in my life where even though I'm very blessed. I know that I've been very blessed in my businesses and with my family, but I was feeling unhappy and discontent. And when I worked through that, I realized that the common thread and the source of my discontentment was periods of my life when I felt confined
Mhm.
by what I just call boxes, because it reminded me of I've had the misfortune of purchasing bed mattresses from Amazon, and they arrive at your door in this box, and you bring it in the house, and then you open it up, and then 2 days later you have the king size mattress that it was designed to be. But you at the beginning you're like, there's no way that mattress is in that box. It felt like I was in that box, not opened yet. And starting at a very early age and going through, I mean, sometimes I still find myself in boxes, but I feel like I'm more aware of them and more apt to get myself out of them when they're no longer serving me. So that's why I actually wrote the book, because I was finding myself in these predicaments, and then I was sharing my stories with other people and found that this was a common theme that people have throughout their lives, and they were stuck too. And I just thought if I could help one person get out of
Mhm.
a box that they may not even know they're in, then it will have been worth the investment of time.
Yeah, yeah, no, I think that is so real for so many people who experience that. And I want to ask you, as someone who has felt like they were in the box, why do you think people stay in them so long?
So I think a couple of reasons. One is, and I'm putting myself in this group, we have to be aware that we're even in a box to get out of a box. So
Mhm.
I do think there's a lack of awareness sometimes. And it's if you don't know there's options outside of that, if that's all you know to be true, sometimes it's hard for us to even know that there are other options. So one is we have to have the awareness that we are in a box. Then once we're aware and we still choose to stay in them, it's usually a fear-based response.
Mhm.
Fear of failure, fear of change and the unknown, or a fear of loss. And loss usually is either a loss, it could be a combination of things, but a loss of maybe social standing, a loss of your social connection, or a financial loss. You're trying to pivot outside of one box and maybe
Mhm.
moving into a different career path, and there could be a financial loss. So I think it's all fear-based. I think it's all in our minds. And for me, what I really try to do is identify what is holding me back. And so I like to write things down. And so I
Mhm.
write down what is the fear, which one of those three buckets or a combination of them, and then work through them. I found that the fear of failure box, that one I don't really get too caught up on anymore, because I feel like I've just totally changed that. It's a meant to me, fear of failure is a box. It's a mental construct, it's a human construct. My
Mhm.
dogs aren't wondering if they're going to fail today. And what we deem as failure in our eyes, somebody
Mhm.
else in this world would love to have that failure, right?
Right,
And
right.
so there's really no such thing as failure. And for me, I look at it and say, okay, worst case scenario, this is not going to go the way I expected or wanted, and I have
Mhm.
to pivot. And
Mhm.
I'll have learned something very valuable that I will take with me for the rest of my life. That's worst case scenario.
Right.
I can deal with that. And
Yes.
studies have shown worst case scenario generally happens 3% of the time. So, when I hear that and I think that, it's like, okay, I can't even let that be something that would be an obstacle to get in the
Mhm.
way of my dreams. And then I
Mhm.
work through the other ones on paper. And usually the fear of change, I really do try to put myself in uncomfortable situations because I think that's what it is. It's like we're not sure how we're going to respond to change and how even
Mhm.
good change. You know, I see that all the time in
Right.
real estate. People moving for a good reason, but there's just this anxiety over change. But
Right.
the more it's a muscle, the more we put ourselves in unexpected or uncomfortable situations, the more confidence we have that we have resilience. It
Mhm.
may just be for me, I take a cold shower every morning. And I know because that makes me very uncomfortable. I live in Florida. I like the heat. I am very uncomfortable in cold. But I know if I do nothing else that day, today,
Mhm.
I will have put myself at least in that situation and I monitor my response. I know I can handle it. I can calm my nervous system down. I'm safe.
Mhm.
I'm okay. So that
Mhm.
just, it's again, it's a muscle. And so that's how I deal with that one. And then the other one, the fear of loss, I think that's a very real one. Loss of status. When I actually moved from a different career, I was in the pharmaceutical industry. I had a lot of pressure in my family of origin to be a physician. And
Mhm.
so I stayed in the pharmaceutical industry to kind of placate the
Mhm.
idea of being in the healthcare industry. But when I told them I wanted to be a realtor, wow, that knocked me down several notches in my family status because
Mhm.
you just need a GED and pass a state exam to be a realtor. It takes 1 week, and
Mhm.
they were comparing that to what their dream was that their daughter was going to be a physician,
Mhm.
and it didn't hold the weight that they were hoping. So I think
Mhm.
that's a real one. You have to work on that. That's my ego talking, and my ego
Mhm.
suffered, but nothing happened to me. So anyway, I just worked through those kinds of fears and really try hard not to let it affect my decision on moving forward.
I love that. And thank you for doing that because that was going to be my next question to you is like, how can people start to free
Mm.
themselves? And you just walked us through like all the examples, and I really appreciate that. And so I like what you mentioned about putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. But you found something that wasn't like, you didn't say, oh, I'm going to go out. So if I have a fear of like, I don't know, I'm just throwing like, I have a fear of public speaking.
Mhm.
You didn't go out there and just throw yourself out there and to speak in front of an audience of like 10,000 people, but
Right.
maybe like something like you present to your pets.
Hmm.
You
Yeah.
present to
Right. Baby steps.
yeah, your family, but
Yeah.
it's still going to be uncomfortable because if that is a fear, it's still a fear no matter how many people like there are in a room, right?
Right. Right.
So I love that you kind of walk through that. And I love that you do that for yourself each day because it's like, yeah, we should be taking these like risks, these small risks to help us get to a bigger reward.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think, I think fear of public speaking is probably, if I remember correctly, whenever you read lists, that's like very high up on human fears. I just think that if you don't have any fear at all, that means you don't care, right, about the outcome. If you don't
Mhm,
care about the
mhm,
outcome, you would have no fear because what are you fearing? You're fearing the outcome is not going to go well and you care
mhm.
about that. So it can be a good thing that that you have some fear that,
Oh, for sure.
you know.
Yeah, because I mean that's like the thing. Because quite honestly, when I was younger, I mean I had that was one of my fears was speaking in public, and I
Mhm.
remember taking I remember taking a speech communications like class, and it was all about presenting and giving speeches like every week, pretty much. And I am from South Georgia, so from like most almost at the bottom of Georgia. And I remember having like a more of a Southern accent when I was younger. And I remember when I went to school, I went to class and my teacher, I felt like she was picking on me every day. It's like, oh my God, this lady's picking on me like every single day, no matter what I do, no matter what I say. And so finally, I just went to, I went to her and did like a whatever you do when you're in college, like those after hour things, whatever.
Yeah.
And I just was like, hey, like I want to do well in this class. And communications is my major, but I don't know what to do in your class. Like I'm afraid to say something because I feel like you're gonna make fun of my accent. And so it was just like a real conversation. She said, I'm only just trying to push you out of your comfort zone.
Love
She
it.
was just like, you're you can't just be okay with, how you're speaking. And yes, you have an accent. So what? She was like, so a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
And she was like, but we can work together to help you refine and be better at public speaking, no matter what accent comes along with it.
Hmm.
And so I remember that, but also I was very focused on losing the accent because I said, no, there's no way that I'm going to go through life with this Southern drawl.
Mm.
And so, yeah, so I just remember like working on that. And I remember when I moved to Atlanta for like an internship and I started working in the city, and people were like, wait, where are you from? And I was like, oh, I'm from Georgia. They were like, oh, but you don't have an accent.
Yeah.
No, I was like, I used to, but I don't now.
Kudos for you for going into the instructor and addressing the issue head on. I think a lot of people would not address it and just because that takes some courage. And I think the accent, that's a box. The minute you hear somebody with a Southern accent, some people assume certain things that have no basis at all,
Yeah, yeah.
but just based on the way where they're from and the way they talk.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and it was a perception that I had, even being someone who was from the South.
Yeah.
Like I, I was like, oh God, no.
Hmm.
And so, yeah, and so it was just something that I saw as a challenge and an opportunity, and I
Yeah.
wanted to step out of the box, so
Yeah.
to speak. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so I think for people, if you're out there and you're listening, Betsy has laid it out for you. Like, put some small, make some baby steps
Yeah.
toward the larger goal. Oh, okay. I love that.
I think the other thing that really helps is, at least for me, because I'm very visual and
Hmm.
I need to see like where I'm going. So for me, getting and shoring up the social connections that I'm moving into, because I know I'm going to lose them on the back end.
Hmm.
Whenever you change the chess game, whenever you move a piece on the chessboard, the
Right,
game has changed. You're
right.
going to lose some of your social network whenever you make a move out of a box. And that's okay. That's a necessary ending. It's fine. We have to normalize that too, I think, in our society. I think sometimes we
Hmm.
feel like all relationships are meant to go forever unless something it's or it failed. And no, it was just complete. It served its purpose in both of
Right.
people's
Hmm.
lives, and now you've both moved on amicably and gracefully. But shoring up where I'm going, and so seeking out mentors and masterminds, and even people, if it's even just on social media that you're stalking in terms of who you want to be like in some facet of their life, whether it's your
Hmm.
work life, your spiritual life, your health journey, whatever, having those kind of mentors that have come before you, walked in your shoes, that you can visualize and see. And honestly, a lot of these people, you reach out to them, they're more than happy to help you and guide
Hmm.
you and mentor you if you seek that. So that's
Hmm.
another way I think that can help you reduce that fear of stepping into the unknown.
Hmm. Yeah, and you make a really good point, and I'm glad you actually brought this up about relationships and them having a completion, because you're right. So many people feel like, oh my gosh, then what happened? It must have failed.
Yeah.
Somebody, it's just sometimes you, like you said, the relationship just has run its course.
Mhm.
And it's just, and you both have mutually like gotten what you need from each other, and maybe it's not meant forever. But I feel like people hold on to that, and they hold on to that like guilt
Mhm.
of it, and they're probably putting themselves in a box too, right? You're
Yeah.
sitting in this box where you're like the relationship box, or even if sometimes where people know they've outgrown the situation, the comfort box,
Yeah.
because they're just there because it's comfortable and it's just the thing they do. Well, I hang
Yeah.
out with this person all the time, even if you're
Yep.
not like on the same like wavelength anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
if sometimes it seems like until the pain of staying is greater than the pain of leaving, you're going to stay,
Yes.
sadly.
Yeah. And Betsy, as an entrepreneur, what types of boxes do, those of us who are entrepreneurs, what have you found like some common themes to boxes that we like to keep ourselves in?
Well, for me personally, there's several. One is stepping out of being a business owner and
Mm-hmm.
being an entrepreneur. That's a huge difference. And for years, I just viewed myself as a business owner, and making that transition to entrepreneurship in my mind, in my identity. That was a big one. The gender box comes up all the time in
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurship, at least in my industry. Oddly, in both ways. I mean, I think sometimes people think, oh, it's always, females are disadvantaged. And I have seen that, or I've gotten things and they flat out told me I've gotten a board position because I'm female and they needed
Mhm.
females on the board, which that does nothing for me. I mean, that
Right.
that actually
Yeah.
upsets me because
Mhm.
I feel
Yeah.
like I've worked so hard,
Mhm.
yet they're sitting there telling me I got it because I was born female. So that one, but then on the flip side, we have clients on a probably a monthly basis that will call our office and say, I only want to work with a female realtor because they feel that female realtors are somehow better at nurturing, selling, whatever.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it definitely weighs on the side. I rare, I mean, maybe can count on two fingers in 20 years somebody calling our office asking for specifically a male realtor. It definitely
Mhm.
sways on the female side. So it's interesting. But gender definitely, people have some strong opinions about that. I think socioeconomic, we see that a lot in our industry. And I teach against it in terms of we treat all of our customers the same way. We market their houses the same way, whether you have a $50,000 piece of vacant land or a $2 million house downtown, you're going to get the same service. And in fact, we had a brand new agent who took a listing like that. It was a piece of vacant land out in the boonies. And at the end of the transaction, I told this new agent, I said, if nothing else, when you leave the closing table, just say, do you have anything else to sell? And
Mhm.
they close, she asks that question. And this lady's like, yeah, I got a little parcel down, whatever. So my agent didn't know where it was. We looked it up and it was an acre parcel behind a Hilton hotel in our town. And it was worth, they listed it for 6 million
Mm.
and she double-sided it. She brought the buyer. And this woman said, I'm giving this to you because nobody would help me with my vacant land because they
Mm.
judged her. They
Mhm.
assumed, and not that she needed anything, but
Right.
but it just showed that you help everybody.
Mhm.
You don't discriminate on who you're going to help. So that's a
Right.
box. But they just come from anywhere, family
Yeah.
of origin, industry, our
Mhm.
peers. We put ourselves in boxes.
Mhm.
We're not a victim. We put ourselves in boxes just as much as other people put us in boxes.
No, I like those. Those are really great examples. So now I know that you have been working on a companion course to your book.
Yes. So the book came out last year, a couple months ago, and the book is story based. It's a thematic memoir of my stories and my journey with a little bit of how to. But
Mhm.
after it launched and after I've been on a lot of podcasts and on some PR campaigns, people have said, okay, well, how do I do this? Like you asked me at the
Mhm.
beginning. And so
Mhm.
the workshop, the course is more a how to on,
Okay.
let's pick some boxes to work on and let's get you through those boxes and get you out
Mhm.
into a more authentic and fulfilling life by exiting those boxes that are holding you back.
Awesome. Now, where can people find? So tell everybody out there, where can they find the book? Where can they get the course? And just how can they connect to you?
Sure. So I have a website, which is just my name, betsypepine.com. And on that site is a link. The course will be launching in the next couple of weeks, but you can get my book there. You can sign up for my newsletter there. And we have some freebies that are going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks as well. And then my book is available on Amazon and all the major online book retailers. Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I have really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for working through the boxes, your own personal boxes with us. That was really cool of you. Now I'm going to transition, going to ask you three questions, three things with Betsy. Just helps our audience get to know you a little bit better. The first question is a two-parter. It is, how do you start and end the day?
So, um, so the first thing I do is get up. I'm an early bird and I put my two hands together, pray, and say, thank you for this day. I'm very grateful to be
Mhm,
here. The older I get and the more I see, the more I appreciate every day
mhm.
that we have here. And then I jump into my cold shower. So that's how I start my day.
Yes.
And then I end my day. So I have a daily habit tracker. And so
Hmm.
every month I pick anywhere from probably 6 to 12 habits that I'm trying to implement in my life.
Hmm.
And so I record which ones I've done that day. And then I journal. I do like to journal. So I journal about my day, 3 wins for the day, and then 3 things I want to manifest tomorrow, the next day.
Hmm.
And then I just read. I try to read. I try not to look at my phone or blue light, but sometimes I do, but I try to read something
Hmm.
non-business.
Mhm.
So that's how I end my day.
Awesome. All
Okay.
right. The second one is what's a goal or intention that you've set for yourself this year?
The intention is to have more joy in my life. Joy is something that, or fun. I remember I took some personality profile test years ago, and
Mm-hmm.
it was, instead of being a, a type, you were like a flag. And one of the flags was a fun flag. And you took the little quiz thing, and then they told you what flag you were strongest in and what you were weakest in, and how many points you had in each of those categories. And I had a 0 in the fun flag category. And I literally took it again because I said, there's no way you can score a 0 in fun. And I took the quiz again, and I got 0 again. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Now, fun was not a value that
Mm-hmm.
was modeled in my family, like education was,
Mm-hmm.
spirituality was. I had a lot of core values that were strong, but fun wasn't one of them. And I remember in that class I took, there was a woman in there who, she literally, so they would pair you up with people who are the strongest in that category. She
Mm-hmm.
literally wakes up every day, and her first question of to herself is, how am I going to have fun today? Like, I've never asked myself that question ever.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wow, how different my life would be if that was the first question I asked myself every day, is how am I going to
Mm-hmm.
have fun today? I loved it. So that would be something that I would,
Yeah,
yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
All right. And the last is where are you currently finding inspiration?
Where am I currently finding inspiration? Well, it doesn't have anything to do with entrepreneurship. I've just recently, I must have been living under a rock, but just recently found a podcast. I grew up Catholic, and Father Mike is like, apparently he's very well known in the Catholic community. I just apparently recently found him, and he has a great podcast which is reading the Bible in a year. And so he
Okay.
does it on the
Mhm.
podcast.
Oh,
So
cool.
that's
Yeah.
been very inspiring to me. It's something I've been wanting to do. I've actually wanted to read the Bible in a year physically, but I'm not. So at least I'm listening to the Bible in a
Hmm.
year.
Yes, you're still getting it in a year.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Betsy, it's been so great having you with us today. Before I let you go, can you leave our audience with 3 things you'd like for them to take away from our conversation?
Oh, enjoy the journey. I would love for, like, the purpose of my book is, if your audience could think of a box that perhaps is holding them back, and begin addressing why they might be staying in the box that they are, writing it down, and creating one baby step to move their life in a direction that would let them exit that box.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Love those. Thank you so much, Betsy. It was so great having you join us today. You can always come back in the future.
Thank you, Kyra. Appreciate it.
All right. Stay tuned, everyone.